Welcome into Believe in Commanders podcast. Scott Jackson and AAA Anthony Armstrong here with you, the former Washington Redskin receiver. And of course, if you are checking us out, please, like us, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, your favorite streaming platform. We're everywhere. We do appreciate you coming along for the ride. So, big news, Anthony. The Commanders are going to be part of the Hard Knocks in season when they focus on the NFC East. Remember last year they did the AFC North, and it was cool. You kind of saw the week-to-week build-up. Little different than what you get from those preseason Hard Knocks and training camp and everything. But I think, the fan base is excited. I got to ask you this. As a player, would you be excited about this? Would young Anthony Armstrong embrace this? Would he want to be one of these Hard Knocks stars? Like, how would you have handled it?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, Scott. If I was on Hard Knocks back then, that generally meant you were on the way out. I wouldn't have wanted to be on Hard Knocks. Too many distractions, because they always highlighted either the superstars or this one great story who probably isn't going to make it. And that would have been where I would have fell in. But I would have loved to, maybe make some noise and be like, who is this guy that's actually making a name for himself? But the difference on this one is that it's in season. So that's going to add a little bit of different nuance. And the fact that it's happening in December, when it's the gauntlet of the schedule for the Commanders, that's going to make it real juicy, real interesting this year.
Well, and of course, the schedules we talked about a few weeks ago, backloaded with all these division games, and Hard Knocks, purposefully is doing that, with these in-division episodes. We saw it last year with the Cincinnati, Baltimore matchups and, really kind of breaking it down behind the scenes with, Pittsburgh as well when they were going into, I think, Cincinnati and maybe even one point at Cleveland. They had the Cleveland snow game. Remember that with Jameis Winston on the Thursday night where he played so well in the snow for the first time in his life. But, so it's kind of cool how they kind of dig into the game planning, the week of the prep and stuff like that. It feels like there's a little bit less of the at-home stuff in the in-season Hard Knocks, which is probably better for the organization because they probably don't want to deal with like the off-field distraction stuff that may show up. This is more, meat and potatoes, football related kind of stuff. And, I just am fascinated to see, if anybody emerges from this Commanders team as kind of like the celebrity of Hard Knocks, because it's kind of a button-down crew. And I don't mean that in a bad way, Anthony. I kind of feel like this is a group that's not going to give you a whole lot during the week in terms of bulletin board material.
No, yeah, you got to keep it close to the chest. You're going against division opponents, especially with Philly. You wouldn't have played them until week 15, week 16, something like that. So waiting that long before you have to see that opponent, the one that kept you from going to the Super Bowl, that's going to have a lot where you don't want to put too much out there leading into it. And I'm interested to see, how many players are going to watch, right? How many people are going to download or get HBO so they can see what's going on in the other against their opponents. But it's going to show on Tuesday. So it's going to be after the game. So it'll be interesting to see, you get to break down what happened in the game. Was that game good? What happened in the week prior leading into this game? And maybe you start this person kind of had a rough week on the show, and then his game performance may have been up or down. So it's just one of those different nuances. I was thinking about, you're going to have those cameras in the meeting rooms, and I could, if they're already buttoned up now, Scott, they're going to be even more buttoned up when there's cameras in the meeting rooms. They're not going to want to let anything out. Game planning is going to be extra tight. They're going to probably be secret meetings over at Terry McLaurin's house to say, hey, you know what? Come over here. We'll have the real conversations here rather than doing it with all the cameras around.
I think Dan Quinn will be great at this. We've seen all his post-game stuff and pre-game stuff, over the years through the Commanders platform this last year. And he's got some great sayings and some great things that he comes up with. So I imagine he'll still be himself, like the flow of the coach and, talking the game up isn't going to be much thing. But I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of maybe like strategy. They're not going to be able to give that, especially you hit it, man, because the Philadelphia one will show, right? Both teams will get to see it. And then they're going to have to play each other again, 2 weeks later. That's going to be interesting. And I think, HBO's done a pretty good job of kind of protecting teams for the most part during these Hard Knocks things. Now, going back to last year, obviously the offseason Hard Knocks with the Giants, they're not even having the offseason Hard Knocks this year. The one that led up to the draft, we didn't get one. And it feels like the Giants are the reason they canceled that Hard Knocks because, as we know, last year they revealed way too much. Joe Shane's kid was trying to talk him into a quarterback. He didn't listen. You had the owner saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if Saquon ends up in our division. Lo and behold, he ended up in your division and he won a Super Bowl and was dang near the MVP of the league. So I just kind of feel like of their last year's Giants experience, probably never going to get that Hard Knocks again. But this will in season, I think, is more like I say, like insulated. I think, and probably not as taxing on the teams as it is if you have to do that off season thing or clearly the training camp on which Buffalo is going to end up being in this season.
Yeah, for the Giants, man. If I was a GM, if I was, Shane over there, I would have been like, look, I don't want no part. Don't put me on anything. I ain't saying anything because everything he said or didn't say bit him in the butt. I mean, Saquon Barkley had an amazing season. And to have those clips that are like, man, we're gonna let you test the market. And he's like, you sure? And karma came around quick. But the Buffalo in training camp is going to be interesting because with so much movement over the past few years in Buffalo, obviously Stephon Diggs being gone and Gabe Davis is gone, and it's all Josh Allen. This is Josh Allen and the rest of the Buffalo Bills. You really get to see what makes up that roster. What kind of leader is he? And is there going to be something in there that you can that lets you know that they're going to take that next step and get past the Chiefs? Because that's the ultimate question right now. Are they going to be able to take that next leap and become a championship contender in the Super Bowl rather than playing the Chiefs very well in the regular season and then falling short when it comes down, when it really matters the most? So am I going to tune into the Bills? I don't know. How are you going to tune into the Bills?
Oh, I tune into all of them, man. I love all these things. And I got a feeling the one with the NFC East, whether and this is going to make our fans sick to their stomach to hear this, but it's going to be the Cowboys show. I mean, it's going to be the Jerry Jones show. It's going to be the Dallas Cowboys show. I mean, they live for this. They're a football team behind a marketing organization. I mean, they're a marketing organization, number one. Then they have football is number two. So, look, the Redskins back in the day with Dan Snyder were kind of similar, right? They marketed more than they cared about football. And this is who Dallas has always been. And of course, when Jimmy Johnson was there, it didn't matter because they could win. And then, of course, when he left, it's just Jerry to be Jerry. And we've seen the results, which has been, nothing in terms of Super Bowls outside of the Switzer Super Bowl, which was really Jimmy's team anyway. But yeah, man, this is going to be, even though the Eagles are the Super Bowl champs, right? That's another team that kind of knows how to handle themselves in front of the cameras. You're not going to hear Jalen Hurts say anything nutty, and you're not going to see him and A.J. Brown getting in fights. And think about this. We'll be like deep into the season at this point. So if this George Pickens thing isn't working out in Dallas with with the number of looks that he wants, man, it could be messy, right?
It really could.
Yeah, Dak's hair might be falling out even more, as the season goes on. So I just think like the Cowboys, even though they were not in the playoffs last year, they're going to get the spotlight no matter what their record is, right? They're going to be the spotlight team because they kind of know how to act in front of the cameras because they're used to it. I mean, the stories. These guys lift weights in front of fans getting tours every day. 100%. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, 100%. You're on display down there. And I mean, like you said, Jerry wants it that way. Jerry wants 100%. It that way. And I can say, I want it that way. I want them to have all that, extra attention at the end of the year because, frankly, this Commanders team need to be thinking about playoffs. They need to be gearing up for those playoffs. And it's good when you kind of get to go without having all the attention and the spotlight on you. They're still going to make some noise. Jayden is going to be explosive. That Christmas Day matchup is going to be amazing to see the build up for that. But the star of the show, please let it be the Cowboys. Let them take all that attention because we're focusing on winning on Sundays.
Well, and maybe we'll get like Nick Sirianni showing us the beauty and the excitement of his tush push, right? Because, they won. It's going to be back for this year. So maybe that's what we'll get to, Anthony. Maybe we'll get Nick Sirianni breaking down what makes the tush push so special and so dear to him, like it's a child of his. I mean, the way they were so impassioned about this particular play that's, run so few times per game, but they were really pumped up about it. As you know, over these last few years and defending it. So maybe we'll get a little bit of insight on that, which whatever it is about this play that allowed Jeff Lurie to speak for over an hour with the owners about it. And
like
the flying Jason Kelsey to be the closer to keep the play. I mean, it's wild, man. I mean, you would have thought they were trying to take the Eagles organization away, not just one little play.
It's given any given Sunday. All I can hear is Al Pacino. It's a game of inches, right? That's all. It's a game of inches. We just got to get an inch. We just need to have this tush push for that. And I mean, I want that play gone. It's fine, but I cannot stand that you have games that will come down to half a yard getting pushed by a whole mall of people when you don't have the ability to truly defend it. Why
can't the defense push back? Why not the defense push back or be able to, again, use leverage, which you're not allowed to do either. That's the problem with it, right? Like if there's a play in offense, like there should be a defense to it. And that's the tough part because there really isn't, because you can stack a guy up and then here comes that surge, right? You got like, Dallas Goedert pushing from behind, right?
Yeah.
And then that's that extra force that gets a strong quarterback like Hurts over the top there. And what's wild is I think we all understand it. The Eagles could run a traditional quarterback sneak probably better than anybody if they wanted to, right? With Jalen Hurts, the size he is and the strength.
Yeah, he was a 700-pound squat. Dude is a
Yeah.
hoss. He's able to do those things himself. But now you got two people behind him pushing, and everybody's pinching down. There's no gaps, no spaces to get in between. And I feel sorry for Daron Payne and crew for having to deal with that. But hopefully Javon Kinlaw, I mean, you've seen Frankie Louvu. He's over there doing flips over the top, doing a little parkour to get back there to stop this QB. No holds barred, right? I think throughout the season, you're going to see a multitude of just different things thrown out there, right? Just who can stop it? The biggest guy on the team. Somebody may sign the 350-pound defensive tackle just for that. If it's tush push time, put him in. Matter of fact, hey, how about this? Cross-train like Brandon Coleman, right? Why not get a big old nasty Sam Cosme? I know he's coming off injury, but you gotta do. Remember, they put Refrigerator Perry at fullback in Chicago.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Why not go and get yourself a backup offensive lineman, somebody who isn't going to get all those snaps, and let him just try to hold up that line? They're used to doing double teams. Get a little double team practice. Maybe we're coming up with something here, right? You got to think about it. The two D tackles pinching together. I don't know. We got to figure it out. I'll put some things on tape. Maybe we'll have a special episode of how to stop the tush push.
Well,
matter of fact, drop it in the comments if you know.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, I think you've seen teams have success. Like Tampa's been good against it. Obviously they have a big nose, which also makes a big difference there as well. And they just kind of built for it. And I guess that's also part of what like the Eagles like running it, because it does like teams start doing what we're doing here, like brainstorm. How do you stop it? And really, how many times are you going to come in a game? Maybe 3-4 times tops, right?
Yeah.
And you're wasting time on this instead of other things, which is part of
that's what they want.
Yeah,
that's the gamesmanship of it all. I mean, that's why you put stuff on tape, you reverse early on in the year, just so it can steal 10 minutes of a coach's time. We're worried about half a yard. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. The other thing that I thought was interesting during this whole conversation about during the tush push time this offseason was the peel, like the linemen coming downfield and like they got a back or a receiver being held up and they just plow, right? Like they just plow through and throw the guy. That to me actually seems like the dangerous part of it aiding the runner, right? What we call aiding the runner, which used to be illegal back in the day. I mean, were you ever in one of those situations, your receiver and maybe one of your linemen comes down, you're getting held up and tries to help you get that extra yard, and then maybe you get off the ball and go, hey, buddy, don't do that again because you almost killed me?
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't want those big guys to hit me. I don't want them guys to be around me. I'm a fleet-footed guy, right? I'm getting down the field. I'm trying to avoid as much contact as possible. But yeah, if I would have seen like Chris Samuels barreling downhill just to try to push me an extra yard, I might have got down. All right, I'm like, don't worry about it, bud. Yeah, we'll hand it to CP next play. We'll hand it to Alfred Morris. Let them do that dirty work. Don't hit me. Please don't hit me.
Yeah, I got a feeling the tush push, even though we'll be months into the season, is going to be a big part of the NFC East Hard Knocks because, again, it was such an offseason talking point. You got to figure, and obviously other things are going to materialize throughout the season with this year. But it should be cool for Commanders fans and Eagles fans and Cowboy fans and Giants fans, well, maybe not Giants fans, to see the Hard Knocks. This might be like it's just a bad, brings back bad memories from the offseason. They lost Saquon Barkley, when it's all said and done. But anyway, I kind of am looking forward to it. Although, I'm keeping the expectation bar very low in terms of salacious stuff from the Commanders. I think it's going to be very, very business-like, which is good. That's what you want your team to be,
nice and bland.
Yeah, the most successful era of football, with this franchise was the Joe Gibbs 1.0, and they were known for not saying a lot, although they did have personalities. They did.
That is the part that I'm looking forward to seeing, right? The personality coming out of there, especially with the Mikey Sanders still was calling his players and calling his teammates and wishing them good night and sweet dreams and stuff like that. Did you see that going around the social media?
Yeah, and he's an interesting guy. A photographer, right? He's going to sporting events, shooting pictures. He's one of these guys that you see like a Ken Griffey Jr. now and Randy Johnson, former baseball players, to do it. And it's kind of fascinating. But yeah, they do have some personality for sure. But you just want to be the right kind of personality, right? You just don't want guys, creating headlines for no reason type of players.
I don't think that's the type of roster they have put together anymore.
No question. I think they have done it right. But you mentioned it earlier too. The Bills thing's interesting because Josh Allen's going to be the star. He's the MVP. And you're right. There's going to be some poor rookie free agent that we're all going to fall in love with. And then at the end of the dang episode, we're going to see him have to go to the office and get cut. And just get cut. Oh, it's going to be
worst.
so painful.
That's the worst. I mean, I've been on that side of those scissors many a times, and it never gets easier, and the explanations are horrible. Like, if you've ever wondered what it's like to get cut, I'm going to tell you, they give you a piece of paper, and it has like 4 selections on there. And one of them is like your play it wasn't up to snuff pretty much. But it's so broad, and you're like, well, I didn't get a rep, right? There's so many things that go into it. And there's no explanation. And I hate it so much for those guys because a lot of times that's the end of the road for their dream. That's the end of the road for their journey. And, it's so famous that when the season is over, they call that Black Monday and all these coaches are getting fired and families have to move. And I'm like, you know what? The coaches are going to be fine. They'll get picked up in another place. Maybe they take a year off. They're still getting paid. But these players, these kids are 20 years old, 21, 22. They've dreamed of this since they were little boys. And now it's over in a flash, and you don't know what to do next. And that's the part that my heart hurts for those guys. And man, I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to feel that anymore, but man, I feel for them because it could be the end of the road for them, but they got to make the most of their opportunities.
Do they give you a piece of paper that ever says numbers game or, well, you weren't our guy? Because that's what it boils down to a lot of times, right? Like, okay, you weren't a draft pick. You weren't somebody that we invested in. And you're not our guy, right? And that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, sometimes, man. I wish it would be like that. If they would just say, hey, we only got space for 6. That's the tough part. You walk in there and they're going to keep 6 receivers, maybe 7. And if you're like number 9 out there, you got to figure out how to get in there. I mean, we look at the Commanders roster now. You got Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. They brought Noah Brown back. They drafted Jalen Lane. That's 4. You're thinking Luke McCaffrey. He was there last year. Who else they got? I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out there that are going to be fighting for positions. Frankly, the top 3 are probably sold up. Yeah. There's going to be a couple of names, and it's going to come down to special teams and different ways to make an impact. So, those young guys have to really be willing to do something that they haven't done in a while, right? You're used to catching passes and being the number 1 receiver at your school, but baby, I need you to cover kicks. Baby, I need you to tackle. I need you to block somebody. I need you to do some things that you have not done in a while if you want to make this team. And I'm interested and excited to see who's really going to carve themselves out a little bit of a role and see how the numbers game plays out. Because I always play that numbers game. I can get to about 45 every time, and I would just count myself. I'd be like, I would treat myself as number 54 or 55 out of 53, and I'd have to go back and be like, well, if I can, maybe they keep 5 linebackers instead of 6, because that's where it gets tough. You don't know how another position is going to play out. Now, I'll give you an example. And when I was in Jacksonville, just for a taste, I was in there for a cup of coffee, and they had brought me in, but then they had to cut me a couple of days later because they needed to bring up a linebacker for special teams purposes. And then I was gone from there just like that. So it could play out that way where if another injury happens, they have to put more focus over there until their main guy comes back. And so many ways it could play out. So many ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, like as you're saying, you're like trying to figure out the way you can get on there. You could do everything possibly imaginable. Like you said, you could just play special teams. You could be a stalwart here or there, but they might have like you said, offensive lineman, whatever. They're short. And they're like, okay, you're the expendable wide receiver. Sorry. You're out of here. Yep. It's tough. And I always respect the staffs. Everybody says this, but not all of them follow it. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. Some staffs will say, once we get you here, we treat you all the same, right? Like everybody's the same. Doesn't matter how you got here, whether you're the 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, or undrafted free agent, whatever. But that's very rare. It's very rare. It's nice when you see teams cut draft picks actually, because it makes you know that they really are trying to calculate the best 53 every season.
That is true. I mean, if you imagine like this, everybody is going to get a piece of string when they get into training camp. That's how they treat you fairly. You all have a piece of string, but when you pull yours out, you're a 1st round draft pick. You got plenty of rope to work with. But when you're an undrafted guy, you may have a couple inches. And if you drop a pass, that could be it, right? But you're like, but the 1st round draft pick drop on. Yeah, but that's him. There's a story they used to tell us in Dallas. Jimmy Johnson had a young Troy Aikman, and he said, "Hey, fellas, if Troy Aikman falls asleep in a meeting, I'm going to wake him up and I'm going to fine him and tell him to pay attention. But if you, undrafted free agent, if you fall asleep in the meeting, I'm going to wake you up, I'm going to cut you, and I'm going to send you on your way. I treat everybody with respect, but I don't treat everybody fairly. That's the way it is in the league, and it sucks sometimes, but that's just the name of the game. You got to be better. You got to do more if you're at the bottom of that roster. If you only got a little bit on that string, you still got to be able to tie your shoes the same way that person who has plenty of rope does. So just make the most of those opportunities, man. Make the most of them.
Yeah. So be ready for the guys with the short rope. Don't fall too much in love with him when you watch him in Bill's Hard Knocks, because you know he's going to probably get cut, and we're gonna all be crying at the end.
That is true.
That's a good thing about the NFC East Hard Knocks. It's in season. There's no cut discussions. It's going to be all about the games and the matchups and everything. So that's what's going to be fun to watch from the Commanders fans' point of view. Although, again, I think you're going to get hit over the head with a lot of Cowboys content. Sorry to break the news to you. All right, man. That should do it for this episode. Next time, we've got a lot to cover with you as well. As the off season we're in that little spot where we're going to finish the OTAs. We have a small break, and then bam, before you know it, Anthony, it is going to be the dog days of training camp. Can't wait.
Yes, it is. Oh, man. I'm glad I don't have to run any conditioning tests, and I don't have to hit anybody, but I am definitely looking forward to the pads getting on there and training camp being here before we know it.
All right. For Anthony Armstrong, thanks for joining us here. Believe in Commanders. Again, go to wherever you find your better podcast to check us out. We are streaming everywhere. Hit that subscribe button, the like button. Until next time, for AAA, I'm Scott Jackson saying so long. We'll see you. Have a good week, Commanders fans.
Peace out.